Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle was warned not by man, but by something unseen. And what he saw in the shadows of the Sistine Chapel shook his soul to the core. Behind closed doors, before the world would meet Pope Leo XIV, God revealed a message that would change the future of the Church forever. This isn't a rumor. This isn't political drama. It is a prophetic unveiling, and it has already begun, because before the white smoke ever rose, before the world uttered the name Leo XIV, a silence fell over the Vatican, a silence broken not by human voices, but by heaven itself. You are about to hear what really happened, what was never meant to be public, what some at the highest levels begged to keep buried. But God has a way of shining light into the most ancient of shadows. It began on a cold morning in Rome, just before dawn. Cardinal Tagle, walking through the marbled halls of the Apostolic Palace, was stopped in his tracks by a presence. Not a guard, not a priest, something not of this world. The frescoes above seemed to shimmer. The air shifted. And suddenly he knew this conclave would not be like the others, because the vote had already been counted in heaven. Heaven wasn't waiting for the cardinals to decide. Heaven was intervening, and before the first ballot was cast, Tagle was shaken by a dream unlike any he had ever experienced, filled with blood-red skies, a crying Madonna, and a voice thundering from behind the veil of the Sistine ceiling. The time of hiding is over. My judgment begins in my house. He awoke, trembling, but what came next confirmed everything. A sealed envelope slipped beneath his door, containing only 6 words. He must rise. You must fall. No signature, no insignia, only silence. Hours later, the conclave began, and from the very first vote, the impossible began to unfold. Pope Leo XIV, a man many believed was too unknown, too reserved, too distant from the Vatican. Power circles began to rise. Vote after vote, his name echoed louder. And some swore the doves circling the Vatican dome that morning had never been seen in such numbers, and that the sky itself turned briefly golden, just as the final count was read. But few know what happened right before the final vote was cast. Cardinal Luis Tagle, eyes red with tears, his hand trembling, stood and whispered to the man beside him, "I saw his face last night, and I can no longer run." Then he dropped his vote into the urn and left the chapel before the white smoke even rose. What did he see? What truth did heaven reveal? Because just days after Leo XIV took the papal throne, the earthquakes began, not of the earth, but of truth. Scandals long buried burst into the light. Financial secrets began leaking. Whispers about ancient factions, even the remnants of Constantine's original covenant with Rome, began circling again. It was as if the spirit of judgment had walked through the basilica, shaking loose every idol from its place. And then, just days ago, on June 21st, 2025, Pope Leo XIV broke his silence, standing not in St. Peter's, but in Lima, Peru. At a theater filled with journalists and survivors, he declared, "There will be no tolerance, not for abuse, not for secrecy, not for manipulation of power in God's house." And with those words, the silence ended. He praised the press. He lifted the veil, and in doing so, he issued a warning to every corner of the Church. Your time of hiding is over. If heaven has spoken to me, then I must now speak to you. It was his first public statement on the crisis, and it shook the foundations of the clergy, who thought they were safe. He invoked the name of investigative journalist Paula Yugas, whose work unraveled the Sodalitium Christianae Vita. He said her courage was prophetic, that the Church must now listen to victims, not silence them. And then he did something that had not been done in centuries. He looked up directly into the lights. And, in Latin, declared, Fiat lux in domum Domini, let there be light, in the house of the Lord. But what truly stunned the room wasn't what he said, it was what happened next. A woman in the front row, unknown, unnamed, burst into tears. She sobbed uncontrollably and shouted, I saw this day. In a dream 10 years ago, I saw him say those words. And for a moment, it seemed even the Pope hesitated. But he walked to her, embraced her, and whispered something the cameras could not catch. And from that day, the rumors began again that Leo XIV was not just elected, he was appointed. That Cardinal Tagle, long considered the next pope, had willingly stepped aside because of what he saw, or what he was shown, and behind every whispered prayer in Vatican halls a new phrase echoes. The hand of heaven is not still. The Vatican is no longer stable. The finances are bleeding. The faithful are asking questions. The old ways are failing. And yet, the Spirit is moving again. And just as Tagle was warned, so now the world is being warned. If you felt the shaking, if you've seen the signs in the sky, if your spirit senses that what we're witnessing is more than news, then open your eyes, because heaven is not silent. And Leo XIV is no ordinary pope. He was chosen not by conclave, but by prophecy. And so the world watched as the white smoke rose above St. Peter's, thinking they were witnessing another election, another chapter, another man in white. But heaven knew differently. This was not a chapter. It was the breaking of a seal, the moment Leo XIV stepped forward to give his first blessing. A chill passed through the hearts of those who had tried to prevent his rise. Whispers behind Vatican walls called it a divine breach, as if the very heavens had pierced through the iron grip of the Curia. Because you see, this wasn't just about a man. This was about the bride of Christ, the Holy Catholic Church, and her long-awaited purification. For too long, her robes have been stained. For too long, wolves have disguised themselves in cassocks, hiding beneath the incense of Mass and the marble of chapels. But now, the groom is coming, and he is cleansing his house with fire. And the fire began the moment Cardinal Luis Tagle surrendered to the vision. He was destined for the chair of Peter. Everyone knew it. The world media called him the Pope of Mercy, the smiling bridge between East and West. But mercy, true mercy, does not shield corruption. And in the days leading up to the conclave, Tagle saw something that shattered his ambition. In the garden of the Vatican, the very place where cardinals walk before voting, he saw a figure, cloaked in white, silent, radiant. But the eyes were burning. He collapsed to his knees, and the figure said only this: the chalice is full, and you are not the one to drink it. When he looked up, he was alone. That same night, he told one trusted bishop, the church will be purified by one whom no man suspects. I am only here to witness it, not to stop it. And now, the purification has begun. Because Leo XIV is not like the others. He is quiet, but fierce, gentle, but relentless. He carries within him a silence that does not come from fear, but from knowing. It is said he prays for hours each night, locked in the papal chapel, unmoving, eyes fixed on the crucifix, not speaking. Listening, what is he hearing? And why are so many inside the Vatican afraid? Because already, secret factions, long buried, long disguised in liturgical beauty and canonical jargon, are beginning to resist. The old guard, tied to hidden accounts. And global influence knows their hour is short. Documents have begun disappearing. Key cardinals have gone silent. Others have vanished. There are whispers, chilling whispers, that in one closed-door meeting, Leo XIV addressed 3 of the Church's most powerful financial overseers and said, your works have been weighed. Your days are numbered. Turn now. or be removed by the hand that sees all. And days later, 2 were reassigned, but not by choice. Meanwhile, beneath the crypts of St. Peter's, a small group of priests, young, fiery, devoted to Our Lady and to Eucharistic reparation, have begun midnight prayers. These priests claim they were stirred by dreams, visions of Mary weeping blood, of Rome shaking, of a pope crying alone in a dark chapel as lightning struck the dome. They believe Leo XIV is not just cleaning house. They believe he is the forerunner to the final confrontation, the final purification, the bride of Christ. They say must be stripped of her splendor to reveal her true beauty. And only through fire will the gold shine, and the fire is growing. In his June 21st address, Leo XIV did more than condemn abuse. He named it, described it, called it an infestation of the demonic. In holy garments, he invoked St. Catherine of Siena, warning that even popes can rot in hell if they silence truth. He said the era of passive leadership is over, that the silence of shepherds has become the feast of wolves. These are not words of diplomacy. These are declarations of war, spiritual war, and make no mistake. The war is already raging. There is a battle in the air over Rome. The clash is not of politics, but of powers and principalities, angels and demons. The very walls of the Vatican now echo with tensions that go beyond this world. Masses are offered with trembling hands. Confessions fill with trembling voices, and behind every procession there is a sense that something enormous is coming. Those who walk through St. Peter's now speak more softly, look over their shoulders. They say the statues seem to watch, that the air feels heavier, that the saints in stone are crying silently for the Church to remember her first love, because the purification will not be gentle, it will be holy, and it has already begun. The archives, yes. The deep Vatican vaults where secrets of centuries lie are being opened. Quietly, carefully, but they are being opened, and the truth is leaking. Leo XIV has ordered a personal audit of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. He wants to know who protected predators, who traded in favors, who signed what and why. And as these truths emerge, the world will gasp, because the sickness has not only been moral, but mystical. There are dark covenants that were made long ago, promises tied to political survival, blessings sold for earthly favor. Some say there are even relics, hidden relics, too powerful, too sacred, kept from the faithful to preserve control. And now, as the light of Leo XIV shines through the Vatican, these shadows are retreating and screaming, and still, Cardinal Tagle remains silent. He has not opposed Leo. He has not interfered, because deep down, he knows. He was warned first. He saw what was coming, and now it is here. The Holy Catholic Church, the bride of Christ, is being readied. Her veil is being lifted. Her hidden wounds are being exposed, not to shame her, but to heal her, and the voice that once whispered through the Sistine Chapel now thunders across the earth. Come out of her, my people. Touch not the unclean thing, for I am about to shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. And still, this is only the beginning, and so it unfolds, not in the headlines of the world, but in the quiet unraveling of heaven's decree. For the bride of Christ is not a passive spectator in this hour of reckoning. She is trembling, groaning, stirring. In her agony, for centuries she has adorned herself in gold and crimson, surrounded by incense and song. And yet, beneath the surface, rot has festered. The very palace that should be the fortress of holiness has become a battleground of unclean spirits and whispered betrayals. But the groom is not blind. The king is not sleeping, and now he is drawing his sword. There is a reason this moment could not be delayed. There is a reason why Pope Leo XIV, unknown, unexpected, unseen by most, was elevated by an invisible hand that outmaneuvered every earthly faction. He is not merely a reformer. He is a harbinger. He has been given the keys not just to the Vatican, but to unlock the time of trial. In private, some of the faithful whisper that he is the Pope of the olive tree, the final shepherd before the great storm, the one named in the ancient prophecy of Saint Malachi, who will lead the Church, not into glory, but through purification by fire. And the fire is growing already. Churches across Europe report Eucharistic miracles, hosts bleeding, statues weeping, monstrances glowing without explanation. Children are seeing visions. Elderly priests are waking in the night with visions of the Blessed Mother calling them to repentance, to reparation, to silence. But others, those clinging to power in the hidden wings of the Church, are trembling for another reason. They know their time is short, because Leo XIV is not stopping. In secret meetings, he has ordered the reassignment of multiple high-ranking clerics, not for punishment, but for spiritual detox. He has asked each of them to spend 40 days in a monastery of silence, prayer, and Eucharistic adoration before returning to their posts. If your soul is sick, he told one of them, your leadership is poison. Some refused. They are no longer in Rome. Others submitted and emerged weeping, changed. Meanwhile, Cardinal Tagle, the man who could have been Pope, is nowhere to be seen. Officially, he is on personal retreat. But sources close to the inner circle say he has entered a period of fasting, unlike anything the Church has seen in decades, that he has taken a vow of silence, that he is kneeling in a remote chapel before a crucifix that, according to an anonymous monk, has begun to whisper. Whisper what? The answer may be too heavy for the world to bear, because it is no longer about who will lead the Church. It is about what will become of the Church. For as the secrets unravel and the golden idols fall, the ancient battle reawakens. Angels have been seen not by visionaries, by clergy, by seminarians. During Mass, during benediction, blinding figures appearing behind the altar as if watching, guarding, or preparing for war. In one case, a bishop in Africa collapsed during adoration. When he awoke, he cried out, "They are coming, the riders, the ones from the end of the scroll. They are at the gate." And this is why the Church must be ready. Because prophecy is no longer poetic. It is personal. Heaven is not hinting anymore. It is shouting. The bride of Christ is being dressed again, not in worldly splendor, but in white robes washed by martyrdom, purified by truth, and stripped of compromise. She will be glorious, but she will first be broken. The final glory is not built on cathedrals of stone, but hearts pierced by the Word of God. And somewhere in the depths of Rome, a door is opening, not a door of marble or bronze, a door long sealed by unholy vows and ancient blood oaths. A door that once opened will unleash the final testimony of the Church before the world. For Leo XIV has found something, buried deep beneath the archives, hidden behind false walls. A scroll? No. A decree. Not of man, but of heaven. It was said to have been placed there by a pope who died before revealing it. Sealed in wax, guarded by oaths. And now, opened the words written within. No one dares speak them aloud, but Leo XIV did not weep. He smiled, and he said one sentence to the cardinal beside him. "Now I understand. The Lamb is near." And then, to the horror of his advisers, he went to the apostolic palace balcony, stepped out before the empty square, and lifted a monstrance containing the blessed sacrament into the air alone, with no warning, no cameras, and began to sing, Punch lingua gloriosi, corporis mysterium. The sky darkened, thunder rolled across the city, and the great bells of St. Peter's, untouched, began to toll. No one pulled the ropes, and yet they rang. They rang as if announcing something that was already written in the courts of heaven. A declaration not of fear, but of glory. That the bride of Christ, the Holy Catholic Church, though scourged and mocked, betrayed and wounded, shall rise again, not in political triumph, not in earthly power, but in supernatural glory. She will shine not by her own light, but by the flame of the Lamb, and the world will see. The gates of hell never prevailed. They only delayed, and now the battle begins, because even the Antichrist will tremble at the roar of a church purified by suffering, anchored in truth and sealed by the blood of her martyrs. This is the moment. This is the hour. This is the cry of the bride, "Come, Lord Jesus." And just then, a white dove landed on the Pope's shoulder. He smiled, looked to the sky, and whispered words no one expected. Words the Church had forgotten, but heaven had not. Domini. Fiat voluntas tua. Et fiat nunc. Lord, thy will be done. And let it be now. And the sky opened.